Thank you very much to the person who sent in this question in regards to anxiety, how perhaps it's not helping the therapy, and how to retrain the brain. So, first and foremost, I have to acknowledge that it took such amazing courage for this person to talk about their anxiety and to try and find different options to help themselves when they are getting support and the therapy and they feel that it's not helping. So, we need to appreciate that the fact that they are experiencing this anxiety and they feel that they're pressured to do safe, that perhaps you are not getting the helpful therapy that you think you are getting. Another point to understand here is that we need to acknowledge that despite all of this not helping, you are actually very aware of the fact that it is not helping. Somebody who is highly anxious is not going to have the ability or the capacity to see that they are in a situation where they are not getting helped. You, in fact, are doing that. You're doing most of the work right there. In fact, this shows that your brain is being trained to be safe. Finally, what we want to take a look at is if you truly feel that the therapy that you are receiving is not helping you, perhaps it's time to seek a different therapist. And they're not going to take it personally. It's just like going to see a lawyer or a doctor. If they're the wrong fit, they're the wrong fit. It's really important to find the right person that you can work with that can help you. And this happens all the time with therapists where we will send one client to another person, or that same client is seeing the same different therapists in the same office, but it's just not working for them. And that's okay. So trying to find the right therapist fit to help you can go a long way in changing that, but also perhaps looking, if you still want to stick to the same therapist, to look at different strategies, different types of therapies that can help you. If you are working from the angle of holistic existential psychology or therapeutic methods that way, and it's not helping, well, perhaps you want to look at cognitive behavioral types of therapies, which have been really effective when looking at treating anxiety. Thank you very much to the person who sent in the question about what my answer would be if I was advising somebody or counseling somebody outside of the university where I work or in a masjid per se. So we were looking at the brother who had said that they stopped praying and they're drifting from religion. What would my answer be? It would be the same. I try to stay consistent in terms of what I say at the university work and therapy that I do, as well as outside in the community. I don't actually do therapy outside in the community as I don't do private practice right now, but I do refer people or give some advice as a first timer to refer to the appropriate therapist. Now, let's look explicitly at this question. If you have somebody coming to you and talking about them drifting away from religion, perhaps taking off their hijab, perhaps stopping fasting, not fasting during Shahr Ramadan, and in this example, specifically stopping to pray, I've actually said this to people in terms of, okay, don't pray. And it's probably not the answer that perhaps scholars or sheikhs would give to somebody, but I've done this many times with young people who've come to me and said, I've stopped praying and I don't want to pray. And I say, okay, don't pray. And so they will look at me in shock. But how could you say that? Why would you say that? And say, so what would you like to do? What do you want to do? And essentially, here, what we're doing is when we say something like that to somebody, you're talking the same language of their struggle. They are in a place, very low place right now, where they want compassion and understanding, not judgment. If we're going to be the haram police, we're going to be pushing people further and further away from religion, from spirituality. But if we can approach them in a very embracing way, in a very compassionate way, perhaps with even humor, or perhaps doing reverse psychology, which is exactly what I did with this person. So if they say something like that, I would say something along the terms of, okay, so don't pray. That shocks them, but then we come back to it later when they do bring it up at the end of the session, when we talk about resolving their academic issues or family issues or whatever else has been holding them back from being able to practice spirituality and religion. I notice that they come back at the end when they've seen love and compassion and support and say, I'd like to start praying again. I'd like to be more spiritual. I'd like to get more religious. And so, as a therapist, we have to be very neutral and don't show our beliefs and impose our beliefs. I would come back to this person and say something along the lines of, how would you like to incorporate that into your routine, into your therapy? Would you like to make that part of your therapy? And so when the client says yes, then we work along with that. And so that joke of saying, or the reverse psychology of don't pray, actually works in many cases. First and foremost, I have to validate and acknowledge how challenging it must have been for the sister who took off her hijab because of peer pressure and her friends and because of the stares and the anti-Muslim sentiments and feeling that she got from the people around her. And she had anxiety because of that, but then now she wants to wear the hijab again, yet she still gets highly anxious about that. We see here that she has a pull, that she wants to wear it again. So there's many different routes that we can take to working with this anxiety. First and foremost, when it comes to trauma, because this sounds like there's some trauma related to this, which triggers her whenever she thinks about putting on the hijab, makes her feel anxious. What we want to do here is we want to separate trauma from the emotion or the thought. So she gets anxious, that's the trauma, whenever she thinks about putting on the hijab. This is what she wants to do. So we need to slice that. We need to break what's happening in the brain. And I'll quickly say here, in terms of what's neurologically what's happening, is that when we are dealing with trauma, a trigger will remind us of how we felt in an incident or something that took place. And the neural pathways in the brain are connected to whether it's the memory, the sound, the smell, or whatever's connected to that trauma. It's connected to that, and then we respond. So what we want to do is to break that connection in the neural pathways of the thought, the memory, to the trigger. So in this case, anxiety, putting hijab on, we want to break that, right? So from a psychotherapeutic perspective, doing some therapy to create less anxiety around hijab and putting it on, almost like desensitizing oneself, can help lower the anxiety triggers around the thought of putting hijab on. This requires a bit of time and therapy in terms of the process, because trauma therapy just doesn't work overnight like that. It takes a little bit of time to work through and process. So what we want to do is create a neutral or positive connection to the hijab. Again, that takes time. Perhaps the sister, what she can do is look at positive imagery, positive videos, or positive influences in the community of women who wear the hijab, role models who are unapologetically proud and Muslim in terms of wearing their hijab and doing what they're doing and not paying heed or not allowing the anti-Muslim notions out there to affect them, or perhaps even changing the circle of friends, the peers, because as we know, peers have a lot of influence on us. So for this young woman who would like to put the hijab back on, from a psychotherapeutic perspective, we can take a look at it this way in terms of clipping and just slicing and breaking the connection between the trauma of wearing the hijab and anxiety. And what we want to do is create positive imagery around the hijab and the thought of it. So that's one way. Another way, when we look at it from a psycho-spiritual perspective, again, it means looking at what are your goals in terms of who are you trying to please? Why are you wearing the hijab? Are you wearing the hijab to please your friends, to fit in? Or are you wearing it because for whatever reason? You took it off because of these reasons, but now we need to reassess and reflect on this situation in terms of what are your goals. So you are wearing the hijab not to fit in with those friends or other friends, but rather you are wearing it towards God. You're wearing it for God. When we look at it again in terms of anxiety here, right? When we look at our goals of the action, our intent, and what our intent is with these actions, who are we doing this for? Again, When we look at it from a self-esteem perspective, it's very connected here, because what we are doing here is recognizing that our worth and our value is not connected and not dependent on our friends or the people or the society around us that we are trying to please. No, our worth is completely independent of that, but rather our worth is fully dependent on our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for this young woman who wants to wear the hijab, lower your anxieties through the psychotherapeutic perspective that we looked at, but also from this perspective of looking at why you are wearing the hijab. Are you pleasing or trying to connect your worth to what people say around you in society, whether it's your friends or the people outside of the Muslim community? Or are you wearing it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Of course, these types of questions require a back and forth discussion, but I hope that this is a start to helping the sister thinking about breaking the negativity around and the anxiety around wearing the hijab to a positive experience, a loving and compassionate experience. And also understanding that her worth of wearing the hijab and pleasing God is dependent on God only, that it's not dependent on the people and the society and what people think around her.